Hey, this is Russ. Hey, how are you guys doing in the winter months? I know the Midwest got hit with a lot of snow. Luckily for Chicago, we hardly got anything. We had a little bit of snow today. It's a little bit of sprinkling of flurries, and we, at least in my area, we got maybe a half an inch, something like that. But everything froze over. Yeah, I was going to go out there and either shovel or use a snowblower, but it's such a small amount. I says I'll shovel it off, but everything froze over already by the time I got out there, so I can't do a thing about it. So I know some of you guys actually will be riding your e-bikes during the winter months. Let me know in the comments below if you actually ride during the winter, and how far along will you go before you finally say, I can't go out there. I know if it's frozen over things, you shouldn't be out there. Yeah, it would be a little dangerous, a little slippery, right? So I wanted to bring up a couple of things for e-bikes, however, if you do go out. I mean, there's things that you can do that would enhance your ability to get out there. Now, for me, I don't do it, as you know. I have certain reasons why I don't go out during the winter months. One of which is really my knee. As many know, I have a replaced knee, and I protect that knee as best I can. So I can't take a chance of falling, especially if it's slippery and icy out there. The second thing is, being an older person, I don't want to be catching anything, catch a cold or anything like that. I don't want to do any of that kind of thing. I'm going to be turning 66 in just a few more days. So, yeah, I have to be a little more careful. Yeah, so I don't go out there. But some of you younger folks, I know, do it. So here's a couple of things you should consider. First off, tires. Now, there are tires specifically good for winter riding. Other tires, not so good, okay? I mean, if you have a commuter style bike and you've got very slick type tires, I wouldn't be taking that on ice. Yeah, it's just you're just asking for trouble. So basically what I'm going to tell you. So be very careful with that. But you can get tires that have a little bit more tread, and it may be doing a little better on things like snow. On ice, yeah, that's another story. You might still slip and slide. Yeah, so be very careful with that. But you can change tires. That's one thing you can do. Another thing people have told me too is get some gloves that are designed for the winter. Now, I know several companies sell this. I know even Lectric has gloves that you can buy off of their website that are designed for your handlebars. It kind of keeps all the wind off of your hands. So they offered me one if I wanted that for the winter. I told them I probably won't be wearing it because I knew I probably won't be going out there. So we decided, okay, forget it. So I didn't get one, but you can get it from Lectric and other sources as well, okay? Now, others have told me you should be wearing things like long johns. Yeah, you know, a lot of times we'll wear things like I have this hooded sweatshirt on right now. We'll wear things like that, but then we forget about our things underneath our pants, right? If you wear long johns, it would help a lot. You know, you don't want to be sitting out there freezing either, right? Get some long johns, get some stuff underneath too. You know, layer up is what they tell you to do. So, and wear a hat, right? Now, I'm one that probably wouldn't be wearing a hat specifically. I have helmets that have like liners and then like little ear flaps. Yeah, that X-Nito helmet that I wear a lot, as you know, has an option for a liner, and that really does come in handy. Now, I will go out there when it's things like 50 degrees, and you know, having that liner underneath that helmet makes a huge difference. Yeah, I mean, it's just like wearing earmuffs, and then of course the vents that are part of most of the helmets today are kind of gone once you wear that liner, because that covers up the openings for you. So look into that if you haven't gotten it, and definitely wear the helmet. Okay, whether you're outside in the winter months or you're not, wear the helmet. This would be a good time to do it, especially if you have a chance of falling from the slip and the slide. Okay, so wear a helmet. Yeah. What else can you do? Well, I find that, you know, if you have things like hooded sweatshirts like this, it helps because it kind of keeps the draft off your neck. If not, maybe a scarf or something like that. It makes a big difference. Yeah. And then also protection for your eyes. Now, I have glasses on, but I know a number of people will wear goggles to keep the wind out of the eyes, because you can feel that. You really definitely can feel that. So consider goggles or something to that effect that will help that out for you, okay? So you don't have to worry about, the wind hitting into your eyes. Really, I think it's the wind that gets me more than anything else. Sometimes, the temperature's cold out there, that's one thing, but, as you ride forward, the wind hitting you makes things feel even colder than what they say. Like for instance, today in my area, it's 24 degrees, and it's going to go down from that point down to 17 degrees. We're talking Fahrenheit, okay? 24 degrees is pretty bad, but 24 degrees and then wind blowing up against you makes it colder feeling than 24 degrees. So it's always colder than you think it's going to be. So definitely, bundle up, all right? Get out there and bundle up if you're going to do it. What about maintenance on the bikes? Well, as you might know, the bikes' batteries will not last as long in cold weather compared to normal temperatures, right? So the hot weather is not good for it either. Let me say that. All right. So, but in terms of winter months, the cold weather is going to cut right into it, and you'll start losing capacity on the battery. So you can't go as far as you did when you did it in the summer. So be aware of that. Don't go out there and thinking you can go the same distance you did when you were in the summertime, because your battery may not last. Some people start carrying secondary batteries, and I know when I first started doing secondary battery videos where I was talking about, it'd be nice if we had a secondary battery, we should carry a secondary battery. I've noticed now that a lot of the e-bike companies have taken that up, and they're offering bikes either with a second battery or a way to keep a second battery with you. So look into that. Now, what I've done in the past is for those bikes that don't have that secondary battery option for the bike, I bought myself a toolbox. Yeah, I measured the longest battery that I had, and then I made sure that the toolbox was big enough that will handle that battery. And so any other battery from other bikes that I want to consider, I can throw a secondary battery in that toolbox, and then I will just strap that toolbox on the rear rack of the bike. Now, keep in mind too, that brings the height of that rear section higher. If you're one that has a step over bike, you got to swing your leg over the top of the saddle to get on the bike. Well, that toolbox is also going to make it tough for you too, because it's kind of in the way, I mean, it's behind your saddle. It's probably lower than your saddle, but it makes it harder to make that swing over. So what I typically will do is I will tilt the bike a little bit. I'll angle the bike to one side, and then I will swing my leg over it. And getting off the bike, same thing, it becomes an issue. So when you're getting off the bike, you have to tilt the bike down a little bit so that you can swing your leg back over it. The added weight of that second battery is enough that sometimes it's hard to keep the bike up, okay? Because it just adds more weight to the tilt of the bike. So be aware of that. I think the very first time I actually had that toolbox on there, I didn't think too much about that weight thing, and then I felt like, wow, I'm gonna drop this bike. You gotta really hold on to that thing, okay? So consider a secondary battery if you're going a little bit further away and you're riding in cold weather. Now, what other things can you do? Well, keep your chain lubed up, okay? Get some chain lube, all right? I'll put a link in the description of a chain lube. In fact, if you go to the russisright.com channel, I should just say the russisright.com website, it'll redirect you to the site that I have where I put all my affiliate links from Amazon and the like, and recommendations for bikes and everything like that. And you can see the different things that I recommend. And one of the very first things I recommended before, when I first started the channel, was things like chain lube. Yeah, you should lube up the chain, clean it off, and then lube it up, right? So I have a dry chain lube that I use during the summer months, but you might look into, they have a wet chain lube and a dry chain lube. This is the type that you're using, but look into a chain lube for something that you might want to put on a chain, because as you're riding and you're kicking up all this stuff from the wet pavement and the like, you're going to rust out your chain if you're not careful. So definitely get something for that. And then when you're done with the ride, wipe down the entire bike. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Wipe it all down, because you might not think it's going to do anything to you, but at least here in the Chicago area, they salt our streets, and that salt is going to corrode things on your bike if you're not careful. So make sure it's cleaned off and then wiped down. Yeah. Salt's really bad. I mean, if you live in the Midwest, you kind of know, right? Because many of us have streets that are salted, and look what it does to your cars and everything. Well, same thing can happen to your bike, so be very careful of that, okay? Other things to look into is make sure your brakes are working fine. Even not for winter, but as a standard thing that I do before I start riding any bike, I always pump the brakes a little bit with my hands. Yeah, I want to make sure that I have good feeling in the brakes and that there's no squishiness involved. Especially on hydraulic brakes. Sometimes if you get air in the line and things like that, it could really mess up the feel of the brakes. You might have to bleed the line, is what they call bleeding the line, and get proper oil in there in order for you to get good feel on the brakes. But check your brakes. Yeah, check the brake pads. Okay, make sure that your brake pads are good, and if they're not, maybe it's time to replace the pads. A lot of people don't think about this. I haven't heard too many people talk too much about brake pads lately, but sometimes it gets to a point where you have to start consider changing out the brake pads. Now, people have asked me, have I done this before? I have changed out brake pads on my mechanical disc brakes when I had mechanical disc brakes on my bikes. Most of my bikes today are hydraulic, and I've never had to really change out the pads there because, at least for me, I've been lucky enough that when bikes come in, I use them for the season and then I sell them off because new bikes come in for me to do a review. And so it's never gotten to the point where it ever needed replacement pads. In fact, those who have purchased bikes from me before are usually surprised at how little mileage I actually have on the bikes before I sell them, right? Now, if it was the only bike I had, the mileage would just start piling up. In fact, I think the very first e-bike that I had was the Rad Rover 5. That was the one that I bought. And I think the very first year I hit over 2,600 miles on that thing. Well, I had to change out the brake pads, right? So I did it for that bike, and I think that's the only bike I've ever had to change out the brake pads for. Because after that point, bikes were coming in, and then I'd use them, and then I'd sell them, and I'd use them, and then I'd sell them, and they were never to the point where I needed to change out the pads. Now, what about tires? Let's talk about that. Okay, I mentioned about there's new tires that you can put on for winter. Have I ever changed out the tires? Yes, actually on the Rad Rover 5 I did, because at 2,600 plus miles on there, you're wearing tires out. So I did change the tires out in the front and the back, and I found that the back tire wears out faster than the front, okay? Because most of your weight is in the back, right? And that's where the drivetrain basically is at. So I changed those out, and I even did some swapping of the front going to the back, and then trying to get as much mileage out of the tires that way too. So I have done it. But yeah, bring tools. That reminds me too. Bring tools with you, and bring an air pump, okay? You don't want to be standing outside hand pumping a tire, okay? Bring an air pump with you. There's many portable air compressor type pumps. Check my Amazon links, right? Go to the russisright.com site and check it and get one of these things. Believe me, it's a lot better than hand pumping it yourself. And they're not that expensive. I think most of these things are probably $40, $50 ranges, something like that. Bring one of those things, all right? And then besides that, check into things like tire levers, right? Sometimes you have to take that tire off, and you don't want to stick your finger there to pull it out, okay? You got to get tire levers, and I do recommend steel tire levers because especially about 26 by 4 inch fat tires, sometimes just to get that bead to get over that rim is kind of hard to do. The steel ones are better, okay? Spend some money and get the good tools. Don't get junky tools. It's the main thing. And hex drivers, okay? Let me talk about that since we're on the whole thing with tools. Many of us have, these little Allen keys that come with your bike and stuff. Get rid of that stuff. Get yourself some actual good ones that you can use. I mean, 4, 5, and 6 millimeter Allen wrenches are probably your best bet. Yeah, I have some that I got from Park Tools, and then there's others that Klein Tools had some. I have a couple from them, but the ones with the circular hex thing in the front. If you've ever bought one of these Park Tool versions, you know what I'm talking about. There's a flat version, and then there's one that's kind of like a ball. The ball ones are better because you don't have to be exactly perfectly lined up, and you can still be able to use that Allen key, Allen wrench, whatever you want to call it, on a different angle and still be able to crank it up. So pay a little bit of money and get the better one. The Park Tools are very well known because that's what a lot of our bike mechanics will use. And yeah, I swear by these things because I use it a lot. When I first bought it, it was just for that very first bike. I said, I don't know how much I'll be using this thing. Who would have thought that I'd be doing 40 plus e-bikes? You have to build all those things, right? So yeah, get some good tools. All right, that's about all I'm going to cover for today. There's a lot of other things that you can talk about, for things for the winter riding season, but be careful out there. Be careful of, ice. Black ice is the worst. You don't even know it's ice until you're on it, okay? By that time, you're probably sliding across it. So be very careful. Bundle up. Do well, all right? If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. If you have some additional tips that you can give other people, put it in the comments below. And again, keep your comments civil. I do appreciate that. Anything that's helpful for people is very welcomed. All right. Talk to you guys next time.